Here we have what's called the octave band analyzer. The bottom of the chart is in hertz, and the side is in amplitude on the left side in decibels. And you can see that right around 240, which is the main frequency of the system, and that's 4 times the 60 hertz rate. Anyway, it goes from 240 on up to about 800 hertz, 720 being the top of the frequencies that I put in. And I'm making an audio file of the 12 oscillators that are the main that represent the main frequency of the system, the overall operation of the Great Pyramid in Egypt. It seems like it's a very steady block of frequencies from 240 to about 800. That ends this. Okay, the pattern we got here is a smaller of these from here to here and there and there and there and there are equivalent to 120 hertz. The larger ones from here to there are equivalent to 20 hertz. So the 20 hertz is the separation increments for the grand gallery that has 7 Corbel steps. And the 5 that we see there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it's actually 6. But anyway, that's 120 hertz steps frequencies, which is for the Queen's Chamber niche. And then we have minor frequencies that are higher than that. I would imagine that's probably up around 720 hertz, which is the top frequency based on either 360 or 720. And we can see we're at 10 milliseconds per division. And running at about 50 millivolts per division vertically. 10 milliseconds horizontally per division. On the Sigilant Super Phosphor Oscilloscope. I really like this scope. And that ends this display. I neglected to mention that this is for all 12 oscillators running. 5 for the Queen's Chamber and 7 for the Grand Gallery. Okay, I want to make the point that all of these patterns that we see are by themselves of the 12 frequencies that I'm using to make this display with a multi-tone generator. They're all sine waves to start off with. But when they're combined in the generator, they start to form what I call a comb generator. And they look like they're forming narrow pulses with the addition and the subtraction of the frequencies. And I imagine what is happening here is that these act like pulses traveling down the Grand Gallery to those 3 granite plugs at the base of the gallery shaft, in the rising shaft. And when they hit those granite plugs, they're reinforced and come back up the gallery. And so we have a standing wave with these pulses building over the reflections. And I imagine it can be pretty intense. And as one person was heard to say when they were in the Grand Gallery on a tour, that they would not want to be there when it was operating. And I must say that they're probably right on. They've probably been turned into cottage cheese, in short order. That's the end of this. Okay, this is a test involving 12 key frequencies consisting of the Queen's Chamber niche, which has 5 core bells, and the Grand Gallery, which has 7, also called courses. And the frequencies you can hear right now, they are combined and coming out of this speaker, and what you hear sounds like pulses. But every one of those tones that I mentioned, of 12 tones, are sine waves. But when they get mixed in a constant power mixer, they form what looks like pulses. Of what you see here. And what we have here to here is 50 milliseconds on the major peaks, which amounts to 20 hertz. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, 6 times 20 is 120 hertz. So that represents those small ones. And then the even smaller ones, if you carefully count them, there will be 6 in there. Well, that's 6 times 120, that's 740. And I have a diagram as you see here, and those are all the frequencies. We have 720, I said 740, I meant 720. 720 hertz all the way down to 240 hertz. And what you're hearing is all of these frequencies mixed. And they make pulses. And those pulses are combined to separate the hydrogen atoms and cause them to release their energy in the King's chamber to provide, hydrogen puts out a frequency of 1.420 gigahertz. And that was channeled out of a waveguide out the top, or near the top of the Great Pyramid. So the 3 granite plugs down at the end of the shaft below the Grand Gallery that goes up into the Grand Gallery, there's an impact wave that comes up from there as a result of all this mixing. And the impulse from the Queen's Chamber also is mixed in the down shaft to the 3 granite plugs. And that total combination goes right back up the Grand Gallery and is fed to the King's Chamber. There it's amplified by the resonators in the ceiling area, and it was fed out of the so-called coffer in a maser, which mixed all this together, and that's hydrogen maser is what fed the microwaves out up the waveguide. So now the exact frequencies of the operation of the Great Pyramid are demonstrated, and what it would have sounded like was probably far greater than what I've demonstrated here. In fact, it was overheard from a tourist that they wouldn't want to be there in the Grand Gallery when the machine was operating. And that's to say, yes, I imagine somebody would definitely not survive that. And that's the end of this test. Enjoy.